Good morning. I'm Tim
Morning.
Perry. Morning. I'm Tim Perry. I'm the Senior Vice President for Children's Services for Frontier Health, and my colleague Christy Tipton is the Director of our Crisis and Specialty Services for Frontier. So I'm going to let Christy get the PowerPoint slides pulled up
Okay.
so that we can share those, and then we'll go from there.
Do you guys have those, or did you want to make me host so I could share that?
Yes, give me one second. Okay, you should be good to go, Christy.
Okay. There's something I need to do, Julian?
Just push share screen. I can pull it up, Christy, I think.
If you pull it up, that might be best.
Is this the
I
right?
can pull it up in my email, but
There we go.
Is that it? Okay.
That's it.
got it.
Just tell me when.
That's it. There we go.
Go. Perfect.
All right. I'll take over the
that's
first
great.
few slides, and then I'll kick it over to Christy.
That's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you. I'll let you know when to change the slide. Well, first off, we were talking about dealing with, and I use this term very kind of conservatively, post-pandemic, because although we are seeing the downward side, I think, of that curve, we're not out of the pandemic yet. We're still facing consequences from it. We're still dealing with it. So we're kind of on the downward side, we're all hoping, but we are not through it. So when I use the term post-pandemic, I'm really meaning post to what we've experienced last year and have gone through for nearly a year now with this pandemic that wreaked havoc across our nation and across our area and the lives of so many people. And some of the things we anticipate and are beginning to deal with as we're coming to that other side of the curve from the pandemic. The first thing that pops out is still the uncertainty. Although we are seeing a great deal of improvement with vaccinations and the COVID precautions that we've taken, improvement in our ability to deal with the pandemic and with this virus, there's still a great deal of uncertainty. How long is it going to be before we are back to what we would maybe term as normal? Are we still seeing threats from this virus? And we know that there are now variances of the virus. Are there going to be additional threats? We hear from children and young people that went through the trauma of those shutdowns, and especially our little ones who had so much difficulty trying to adjust and understand the trauma of what it was they were going through. That fear, as we are opening back up to more in-person and getting out and a little more freedom to be amongst our colleagues and amongst other people, the fear of, is it going to happen again? Are we going to go back to a place where we're shut down and shelter in place, and all the restrictions and the massive amount of trauma that went along with that? So a lot of children are very fearful that it's going to happen again. Or what if it happens next month, or when we start back to school again the fall in next school year? We also are seeing educational problems already with the shutdown and going to virtual. We've seen kids having delays in their education. They're having some deficits in their ability to academia, to meet the levels of expectations for academia. So we're seeing some educational issues that the Department of Education and all of our schools are dealing with. Financial hardships are continuing. Many people lost their jobs, businesses shut down, people were unemployed, some businesses rebounded, some did not. There's been financial hardships on a number of people, and those are continuing. That affects the entire family. It affects their emotion and mental health as well as their financial health. Grief. 400,000 people have died as a result of the COVID virus, and deaths continue. We see nearly every day a death or two in our region, several in many counties. So we still have a mortality around the death with the coronavirus. And of course, that leads to grief. We've seen a massive amount of grief in families everywhere, and that affects, of course, their emotional and mental health at a family level, as well as individual levels. Social climate changes. The climate of our society is different than it was before the pandemic. We've seen things happen that none of us may have ever expected to see in our lifetime or deal with in our lifetime. We've seen civil and political unrest. We've seen things, executive orders and things happen that have affected us as a society. So the climate of our society is different now than what it was before the pandemic. So there's social changes. Rebuilding those social interactions that kind of goes along with those social changes. We are so adjusted, have become so adjusted for so long now of interacting with each other through a screen technology that person-to-person interactions are a little awkward. And as we start getting those person-to-person interactions, especially for young people, it's being challenging how to have those interactions and rebuilding relationships that we lost with support systems and others that we had colleague relationships with that we were not able to connect with during the pandemic. We have to rebuild as we come out of this, those relationships and those social interactions in a person-to-person manner that has kind of been restricted and have left us in a little bit of an awkwardness as we get back together. So rebuilding is going to take some adjustment and challenges for us. And then of course we're continuing with the safety precautions and the restrictions and what's been laid out for us to continue to keep our family and our community safe. Next slide, please.
Again.
While they're working on that, I'm just going to go ahead and go from my notes because I can talk without a screen in front of me. So what are the consequences? What are some of the things that we are seeing and expect to see mentally and emotionally from families and individuals as we're coming to the other side of this pandemic? It's the one before that, Jillian. First off is high rates of anxiety disorders. I think we're seeing already that. We saw it emerge very quickly back in 2020 as this pandemic hit through the first studies that we saw back in March, April, May, and June. Anxiety rates for families and individuals and kids were skyrocketing. And we're continuing to see higher rates of anxiety disorders, even though we may be feeling a lull or feeling a bit of a reprieve as we're getting the vaccinations and people are getting back to interacting with each other and getting back in society a little more. There's still this underlying anxiety. Is it going to raise its rear head again? And are we going to go back to something in sheltering? Are we going to see a more widespread virus with the variants? What's going to happen next? We're seeing post-traumatic stress disorders, a lot of traumatic disorders, things that you would expect when we went through the stress of being shut down and the isolation from our support systems that we had in place before the pandemic, and the stress that and the financial as well as the other death and threat of the virus that was causing, we've seen a great deal of anxiety and trauma as it relates to that, and that's continuing. We're continuing to see emergence of that. Depressive disorders are on the increase. We saw that as well, and it's not age specific. It's not just our geriatric population or our middle-aged or adolescents. We're seeing depression at a larger scale across all generations and all ages and all venues of individuals. It kind of couples with the grief, but also just the loss of expectations, the loss of dreams, the loss of ideas that we had about what we could have done last year or should have done, and we look back and there's some sadness about that, but just people's feeling cut off from the things that they supported that made them feel important and part of their lives. So depressive disorders are on the increase. We're seeing higher rates of substance use. A report that came out literally today, this morning, showed that during the pandemic, during that shutdown period, that there was an increase in parents allowing adolescents to use alcohol during that period, a more permissive attitude among parents about children using things like alcohol and marijuana. So we are seeing a substance use disorders increase. People used it to self-medicate and deal and cope with the stress and cope with the trauma. Increase in suicide rates and overdose deaths. We've seen that continue, and it's continuing as well now. Increase in family conflicts and domestic violence. We saw an exponential increase in family domestic violence during the pandemic. And on the outskirts of the pandemic, we're continuing to see issues with family conflicts and child abuse. That is a result of the shelter in place and shutdown and the loss of continuity of surveillance that kids may have had in a school setting or with other people seeing them and being able to reach those supports. Increased issues with childcare and behavior problems, especially for little ones. Many daycares were shut down, some still are. Head Start programs closed, and many still are. So parents had to adjust quickly to how to take care of these small children without the support of the school system or daycare and other supports that we relied upon. So we saw healthcare problems and mental health problems with childcare issues with parents and behaviors as a result of that from these small children that are expediting issues of stress with the parents trying to deal with childcare problems. And then, of course, increase in school problems. We're already seeing as schools are getting back in person, we're having more problems with the behaviors. It's going to take an adjustment to a child going from a less structured, less orderly, less disciplinary environment, perhaps as they were in a virtual world for schooling in the home, to a more structured, routine, and disciplined venue such as a school setting. And as that begins to happen, they're having some adjustment issues, and as a result, behavior problems are on the rise and significantly on the rise in schools all across our area. And that's creating problems for teachers, principals, and parents, crisis workers, and mental health workers, and the community at large, including juvenile courts. So we're seeing increased problems. So these are kind of a cluster of things we're seeing. What can we do? I'm going to kick that to Christy to talk about some tips and some resources.
Thank you, Tim. Yeah, there's in the crisis and alcohol and drug world that I'm part of with Turning Point, we are definitely seeing an increase in folks reaching out for help and needing those services. So it's really, really a scary time. And so we're hopeful that people will continue to reach out and we can help get people back on track. So some of the tips that I'm gonna give you is really grassroots kinds of things that we've learned. We have a COVID virtual crisis that I'm going to talk about here in just a minute, team that has really focused on debriefing folks during the pandemic and helping them kind of come up with some tips that might be helpful. And what we're finding, we've done large presentations and done some different things, but what we're finding with folks is you really have to get one-on-one with them and in very small groups and really talk about really basic detailed things that they can do to feel better and to help come out of this. Because just like Tim was saying, we're seeing a lot of compound grief, compound trauma, because people already had stuff going on before the pandemic, and the pandemic's just added to that. So one thing, of course, is normalizing what people are going through, and just help reduce the stigma of mental health. Everybody is going through this in some form or fashion. And, being able to normalize those feelings and thoughts about that is just letting people know it's okay. I'm dealing with that too. It's completely normal to feel that way. That really helps people feel supported and feel like they're not alone. Take one day at a time. That's amazing advice for all of us every day, right? Just try to be as structured as you can with your schedule, especially with kids. That seems to help, and it helps with us as adults as well, to have structure in our day and to be able to kind of work through some of those things, and just do it one day at a time. Stay connected to family and friends. Folks have lost, just like Tim was saying, people have lost that connection a lot of times. And though we've got FaceTime and Zoom, it's just not the same as in person. So I've heard a lot of people getting very creative with that and being able to do some Zoom parties and different things. And hopefully as the weather warms up, we'll be able to do more things outside as the pandemic hopefully winds down some, and we kind of see where all this goes. So get creative with that. Continue following guidance on precautions, not rush back to pre-pandemic life. So that's kind of that cloud that's over us, right? That we want so much to get back to where we were, but we still have to wear masks in certain situations, and just really be cautious about what our distance is and different things. So that is kind of looming, but just kind of making that part of your routine, and just kind of settling that that's okay, that's where we're at right now. Self-care, this is the most important. Take time for yourself, eat right, get some exercise. I know I've heard a lot of people having a lot of difficulty during the winter months, because it has been so cold they can't get outside. I think that's how we kind of survived last summer. A lot of us is going hiking with just our small group of family, our close family, and just being able to get outside. But it's been hard this winter. So find ways to do that. Appropriate amounts of sleep. Hear a lot of people binge watching Netflix and things like that. So monitor that. If you need to kind of escape for a little bit, that's fine, but don't make that a routine thing. Just try to stay in your routine as much as possible. It's a great time to start a new hobby or home project. I've heard a lot of people they're trying to busy themselves with different things and try something new. The goal of this is just to get creative as much as possible. Look back on achievements, look forward to little things that give us purpose and meaning. Just think about what we haven't lost. Think about, we have lost a lot of things, and there is a lot of grief, just like Tim was saying, but think about what we do still have, and try to focus on those things and moving forward with that. So that's some of the tips that we have. Jillian, you can change it to the next screen. So I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the services we have available, and Tim will talk a little bit about outpatient and how that works. But like I was saying, we have a COVID crisis line that we've set up, and we'll be going through the end of June. It's a FEMA grant that we received, and it's from 12p to 10p every day. Folks can call and just talk about what they're going through with COVID and get some extra coping skills, and just talk to a crisis counselor about that. We also offer some group debriefings. If you have a group of folks that you think would benefit from that, we've done some internally with Frontier Health, and they've been very successful and helpful for people to just feel supported and know that they're not alone. We do have a couple of events coming up with that I think quite a few of you, our recovery navigators, have reached out to participate in. Next Saturday, not this Saturday, but the 13th, we have a You Narcan Recover event. And what we've got is a lot of information about coping with COVID, and we're going to also be handing out Narcan and directions on how to use that. People can drive by Turning Point to get that. So the address is there below, 208 East Jamaica Avenue. Then the next Thursday, we're going to do a first responders appreciation lunch drive by. So we're hopeful, our first responders have really stepped up and supported all of us, and we want to give back to them. So we are going to do just a drive-by lunch for them. Same kind of concept, just give them a bag of information with some lunch. So, and if you have materials that you would like to put in those bags for either event, just if you want to drop those by Turning Point or call that hotline number, one of my case managers will be glad to meet and do that for you. We also have the crisis line that is continuous. We do the suicide hotline as well through our crisis program. We answer actually for about 20 counties now. We've expanded from our 8 counties to all the way through Knoxville and their surrounding counties. So that number is always active, the 877-928-9062. If you have someone in crisis or need some advice on working with someone, we'll be glad to help with that. Just a real snippet about Turning Point. We've got a lot of services here. I did just take over our inpatient A&D, our rehab, our residential, Magnolia Ridge and Willow Ridge. So I'm excited to start with that. And we have, of course, our crisis walk-in center that's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Anyone can walk in to get a crisis assessment, to receive services. We're going to be expanding to add a children's walk-in to that later this summer, so we're excited about that. We have a detox unit and an inpatient crisis stabilization unit. So we have lots of things going on here, and we'll be excited to help however we can. Tim?
Thank you, Christy. We can go on to the next slide. I'll talk a little bit about our outpatient services. This picture you have in front of you is our clinic in Carter County. It's located in Elizabethton. It's on East G Street, really right across from the health department. And the next slide has the address and the phone number for the clinic. And it is, there it is. That's the outpatient clinic in East G Street in Elizabethton. That's our Frontier Health Clinic there. Again, it's right across the parking lot from the health department in Elizabethton. You can go to the next slide. It is a full mental health clinic. We offer what we refer to as a complete continuum of services for both adult and children for mental health and behavioral health services out of that clinic. That includes traditional individual, family, group, and marital psychotherapy. It's also been, Christy's already mentioned about the crisis services. We offer 2 levels of case management. Case management is the community-based in-home or in-community services that we offer to the families receive services. Traditional case management for anybody that has a TennCare is eligible pretty much for that. It's referred to as the Tennessee Health Link program. And it's 1 or 2 times a month, maybe more, depending on the needs of the family. It helps link them to services, works with the parents, works with adults, helping them to make sure that they have the services that they need, the relations that they need to be established, not only on the physical health, on the mental health, but also on their physical health. This component also addresses when they need a pediatric or a PCP appointment. Will help them get connected to those services as well. So Tennessee Health Link is our traditional case management program. We have an intensive program for kids. It's actually 2 levels. It's referred to as CTT and CCFT. That's continuous treatment team and comprehensive child and family treatment. Those are more intensive for kids that are at high risk, maybe of being removed from the home or not succeeding or having some issues that will not allow them to continue in the school system. The very highest risk for behavioral issues would fall into those. Those are seen 2 to 3 times a week. And again, in the home, in the school, and helps provide them with resources, helps provide them with some guidance to the parents, and works one-on-one with the child and the school system or other important factors in the child's life. We have psychiatric services, both adult and kids, through psychiatric nurse practitioners and psychiatrists. We've been doing a lot of telehealth while we've been shut down due to COVID. So we've actually been able to go in to provide this service into the homes of our clients. We're beginning to open our doors back up more readily now to in person. So we're having people come into the clinics to be seen. We do need some of that for psychiatric services, but we are continuing a mix of the psychiatric in-person and telehealth with the families, depending on their needs and the assessment of the psychiatrist. We offer parenting classes. We have a grant that pays for parenting classes through a grant with the Department of Children's Services. These are free, and this can be for any parent that feels that they're having difficulty with a child, whether that's a 18-year-old or a 4-year-old or 2-year-old, whatever they may be dealing with. It can give them some parenting guidance and coaching for parenting. It is free again, and we offer it there at the clinic in Elizabethton. We do have a regional program for illicit alcohol and drug treatment. It's called the Adventure Program. It serves all regions, which includes Carter County. It's located in Johnson City next to Rotary Park, but it serves all areas of our region. It's a unique program. It's a day treatment program where the kids actually go there and spend the day. They go home in the evenings and are home on weekends, but they actually have school there. They have group there. They have drug screening. They have psychiatric services available to them. They have individual family counseling and case management, all out of that. And it is primarily targeted for kids dealing with substance use disorders. Next slide, please. Thank you. We do provide consultation and educational services. That's more like what we're doing today, that's presenting on a particular topic to a group. We will go out into community and talk about a particular mental health issue that seems to be something that the community has a need or desire, or a group for us to give some education to the community about. We'll be glad to provide that. We do consultations with a lot of agencies when they simply don't know what to do here. It's a mental health issue, behavioral health issue. I'm not sure really where to go with this. And they can reach out to us through our clinics, and we'll be glad to give them some guidance and direction. I've already mentioned the CTT and CCFT. We do have a service called Juvenile Justice Reform. That's a grant with the state of Tennessee. It's actually budgeted now in the state of Tennessee to provide liaisons in our juvenile courts. So we are working in all juvenile courts across all areas of Northeast Tennessee, all 8 counties. That liaison provides continuity between the juvenile court and the community mental health, school, and other facets of the child's life. They also have in that program a treatment team that actually provides in-home therapy and case management that goes into the home for kids that are in the juvenile justice system, or they're at significant risk of entering the juvenile justice system. And a particular model called multidimensional family therapy is the model that's used for that, but it is treatment in the home for those kids. We do school-based services. We actually have a program now in Elizabethton City Schools. We have 2 therapists there. We have an early childhood program called Project Basic. That's kindergarten through 3rd grade at Happy Valley. We have a liaison program at Happy Valley. We have a full-time therapist at Hampton High School. And we are working on filling some therapy positions for a student assistance program at every school in Carter County. And we hope to have that in place before school starts in August. We started that actually last summer and have been working diligently to try to fill those positions. But if it works out, we will have a mental health professional in every school in Carter County at the time school starts back in August. That's our hope anyway. And then we have an adult community justice program that works with folks stepping out of incarceration or that's been incarcerated. A couple other programs that's not on this list that's regional, that serves Carter County, especially for kids. We have the regional intensive program, which is called RIP, R-I-P. It's housed in Johnson City, but serves Washington, Carter, Unicoi, and Greene counties. It's free. It's for little ones. It's 2 to 5-year-olds, but it's a parent-on-parent coaching where parents and a facilitator work with other parents or guardians. These don't have to be parents. These can be guardians that are having significant behavior issues with children of a very young age. and it's on site. Extremely good program, has great outcomes from it. And then we have a planned day respite program that's also regional. It's housed in Johnson City, but it also serves Carter County. And this is for kids ages 2 to 15 whose parents need a day off or a break from dealing with behavioral issues that they may have with their child and need them to be in a day respite. So we may take the child and do something with the child in this program for a day to give the parents kind of a day to themselves and some availability for alone time. We have a comprehensive array of other programs and services that are regional, both adults and kids. And if you want to see a full list of all of our services or all of our sites, please feel free to look at our website at www.frontierhealth.org. It has a service guide that has a list of all of our service areas and all services that are provided in each of our clinics. Now, questions.
I've got something I'd like to. Hi, it's Molly Colley with Tennessee.
Hey, Molly.
Hi, Tim. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. So good. I'm really glad to have seen this today, and you and Christy are awesome, and I'm so grateful for all the work that you're doing. So just wanted to put that out there. But I was hoping I could also give a little update on suicide data. That is hopefully good news. So the CDC just released data yesterday. So we have all the data for 2020. Well, we have a majority of the data for 2020 up until August so far through the CDC. And as of that information, we have actually seen nationwide, and the Tennessee Department of Health data reflect this as well, we've seen a decrease in suicide rates during the pandemic of almost 5%. And that is statistically significant. And almost everyone hears that and they're like, there's no way that's possible. But what I guess the main thing is, so the deaths themselves, we've seen this decrease, and that is better than any of us could hope for, right? Like anytime we hear suicide rates are decreasing, that's amazing. But of course, the important part that I want to be clear with here is that, everything that Tim and Christy are sharing is spot on about what we are seeing as far as people's lived experience, the, desperation, the hopelessness, all of those things. And we have seen, and I know both of y'all can speak to it from your own experience, we have seen that massive increase in people reaching out for help and having suicidal ideation and needing the help. So the good news is we've seen that decrease in the actual death number, which is a positive thing, but knowing that there's such a large amount of people out there still struggling, and suicide prevention isn't just about preventing the deaths, it's also about preventing that hopelessness in people who are living. So I just wanted to add that data in. And if anybody's interested, I can send you the CDC link. But yeah, just know that death rates are decreasing, or so far, death rates are showing a decrease up until August of the pandemic. So
That's awesome. Thank you, Molly.
Christy, we had a request to share your slides. Would it be okay if we shared all the slides with the group after the meeting?
Yes, absolutely. Tim, you're okay with that, right?
Absolutely. Perfect. Yes.
Sure.
Any more questions? I'm sorry, any more questions from anyone? I want to personally thank you, Tim and Christy, for doing this presentation. I think this is so needed, just to remind us where people are in our county dealing with all the things that have changed just this year. And if we think about it, it's almost been a year, and we still are battling things that we thought we might be past by now, but we're not. So thank you both for taking your time to do this and spend time with us to share your information.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Anytime.
It's a long road ahead, maybe, but maybe not. We hope not. We can always think positive and hope for the best. And
Right.
every rainbow has a rainstorm ahead of it. So we've got to think that way, I guess. But thank you both.
Sure.
Anyone else have anything for them? And I think you put your contact information on the slide. So if anyone has a question, I'm sure you would not mind them getting in touch with you.
Not at
Okay.
all.
Thank you
Not
so
at all.
much.
Mhm.
All right. According to our agenda, at 12:45, we go into our breakout session. So it is 12:43, according to my computer. So we're a little bit ahead of schedule. That's a good thing. So Jillian, you'll have to help us with that because I don't know how to do that.
Yes, ma'am. So I'm going to open breakout sessions now. If I don't know where to put you, you'll be hanging out here in this space with me.
Okay.
And so you should be able just to click join breakout room and you'll be good to go.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
You here. We have some fantastic insight on that just to make sure that the projects that we're doing reflect what everybody wants to get out of the committee. So we just kind of did a regroup on that, regroup on the vision and what we want to do. We gave a brief recap of the projects that we were working on last month, awareness campaigns and stuff, and gave updates on where we're at with those things, and also made further progress on magazine project that we're working on.
Thank you. Committee C, you want to share?
Jane, you want to talk for us since you've done most of the work?
Oh, okay. Well, we were fortunate in that we had Dr. Lacey Hartigan from the Tennessee. Well, she's the project lead on the Tennessee Together survey for Tennessee. She's employed by EMT Incorporated out of their Nashville office. And she just got us all up to speed on what has been going on with the Tennessee Together survey of alcohol and drug use among 8th, 10th, and 12th graders. So the baseline survey across the state was done in 2018, 2019. That's what we have data for, and they're collecting data in different school districts through the end of the school year. So we were lucky in that we had Beth Bear and Nicole Moore attend and participate in the meeting and represent the Carter County schools, Elizabethton City schools. And so we've got our head wrapped around what's going on with the survey, and we'll move forward from there. Did I miss anything? Anybody who was there?
All right, thank you all. One quick request from me. If you haven't filled out a membership form, please, please, please do that. It's how I figure out where in the world to put you in what committee. And so if I don't have a membership form from you, there's a great chance I'm going to put you somewhere. Or even if I do have a membership form from you, there's a chance that you're going to end up somewhere random. But membership form gives me a better chance of putting you in the right place. So please make sure you've done that if you haven't. I will turn it back over to Sherry to close us out.
Okay, thank you all for attending today. We had a good turnout, it looks like, and had some good meetings in our groups. I got in a couple of groups, some accidentally, I guess, but it was good and I learned stuff. But we're glad you all are here. I wish you a great rest of the week and weekend, and enjoy your day today. So, any objections to adjourning? Okay, so meeting adjourned. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you.